Welcome to the inaugural episode of a special series dedicated to your personal economy. Now, this series is all about things that truly matter to you, which include your family, home, passion, career, and legacy. We understand the power of personal economy as a fuel for doing what you love to do. The second edition of the HSBC Premier Personal Economy Summit, Your Wealth and Beyond, in partnership with ET Now, kicked off in Mumbai. The event saw a lineup of power-packed speakers, which included the founder of Infosys, Narayan Murthy, filmmaker Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra, and tennis champion Mahesh Bhupati. The second leg of the summit was held in New Delhi, which saw celebrated personalities like CEO of Niti Aayog, Amitabh Kant, Guru Prahlad Kakkar, singer Shankar Mahadevan, and tennis champion Vijay Amritraj. The speakers inspired the audience with their individual success stories, all fueled by a desire to follow their personal passion. In the first episode of the HSBC Premier Personal Economy Summit, Your Wealth and Beyond Season 2, in partnership with ET Now, we put the spotlight on the importance of pursuing your passion. The summit began by an opening address by the executive editor of ET Now, Sandeep Gurumurthy.
Very warm welcome to all of you to the second edition of the Personal Economy Summit. I'm usually reticent when it comes to giving an opening address. I'd much rather take the closing address, thank everyone, and direct people to the bar. But not this time around, because I think passion is something that each one of us can speak about. Each one of us has a story to share, many stories to share. So I'm going to try and share some part of my story over the next couple of minutes in this inaugural address. If I were to look back at my career, I would say that I couldn't have made it if I weren't incredibly passionate about what I was doing, if I wasn't incredibly passionate about being a journalist. You know, to do 14 hours a day, day after day, week after week, month after month, in a very high-stress environment, often doing not so glamorous stuff, chasing people for sound bites, waiting outside government ministries and departments, hounding CEOs for comments at times, even at midnight. It's not great fun at all times. And often you do it for a very paltry salary, at least at the start of your career. So, I keep wondering, what was it that really drove me? And I think it was just the fact that getting up every day and telling myself that I'm doing something that I really believe in, that I'm doing something that I'm incredibly passionate about, that's what drove me. That's what drove me as a journalist. And I realized through the course of time that eventually things like money, fame, profile, designation, all these things that we chase, they all catch up just because you have the courage to live your passion. And I think that's, to me, the most important thing in life. But I want to say a few words about our marquee speaker today, Mr. Narayan Murthy. You know, when we were thinking and chatting with HSBC as well on who should be the marquee speaker for an event of this stature, of this profile, one of the first names that came to our mind was Mr. Murthy. Not necessarily because of the incredible emphasis that he created, but the way he created the company, the choices he made, and the path he followed. Mr. Murthy, it's indeed an honor to have you with us this afternoon. I'm really looking forward to your keynote address in a few minutes from now. Thank you so much for being with us here in Mumbai, and thank you so much to all of you for being with us in this Personal Economy Summit. Thank you.
And I myself can't wait to hear Mr. Narayan Murthy in just minutes from now. But firstly, I'd now like to invite the Head Retail, Banking and Wealth Management of HSBC India, S. Ramakrishnan, first to say a few words.
So I'm going to keep this extremely brief. So Mr. Murthy, firstly, thank you so much for being here, and thanks to everybody here in this room who could make it. As you rightly said, this is something that people have looked forward to ever since the time we launched the Personal Economy Summit last year. I was just telling Stuart right now, a lot of my colleagues from banks have actually said, how have you managed to pull off an event about finance by a bank without showing graphs and charts about how stock markets are moving and about how the rupee is going to depreciate or appreciate, whatever. Sorry, please don't quote me on this. And that is the beauty of the Personal Economy Summit, because it's about you. It's about your economy.
Well, Ramki, thanks for setting the tone for the Personal Economy Summit Season 2. Let's kickstart it all. Now, many of us are lucky to find our passions in our work, while others discover it through their hobbies, their dreams, and experiences. Now, here to open our first session on the topic, is your passion part of your daily life? Is the legendary founder of Infosys, whose passion for entrepreneurship gave birth to one of the biggest global software consulting company, a stalwart who continues to inspire millions, including me. Please put your hands together and welcome Mr. N.R. Narayanamurthy.
First of all, I'm very, very grateful for this kind invitation. This is an opportune moment in the history of India's economy. We have Startup India. We have a set of very enthusiastic Prime Minister, ministers and bureaucrats, lots of venture capitalists. So therefore, this is the right time to discuss an issue of what our ambition should be and what is needed for us to achieve that ambition. What is our ambition today? It is to create a society where every child has decent access to education, healthcare, nutrition, and shelter, and equal opportunity to better one's life. Our aspiration, which is a higher level of ambition, is to create a society that will be better environmentally and economically than the one that we inherited from our parents and the one that we are going to pass on to our children. This appears somewhat impossible, but then the youngsters believe in the saying that a plausible impossibility is better than a convincing possibility. This is also an ambition that transcends your personal needs, your personal trajectories, and it is something that will make the society a better one. And it's passion that is the fuel for us to achieve our ambitions. Passion, in some sense, is an intense emotion, a compelling enthusiasm, and a desire for something, according to Wikipedia. Passion is what gives us energy, enthusiasm, confidence, courage, and ability, as well as perseverance, to continue doing what we believe in. Mahatma Gandhi is forsaking a great legal career in South Africa and live like a poor Indian and fight for freedom is all about his passion to see India as a free country. Bill Gates giving up a promising academic future at Harvard. I don't know how many of you know that as a sophomore at Harvard, he published a paper in mathematics. And then he gave it all up because he wanted to start Microsoft just as an 18-year-old kid. And we all know how that has turned out to be. Founding of Ashoka, started by Bill Drayton. Founding of Facebook by Mark Zuckerberg. Founding of Apple by Steve Jobs. And to some extent, even Infosys are all wonderful examples of entrepreneurship resulting from an extraordinary level of passion. Define a larger-than-life vision, just like Mahatma Gandhi did, just like Bill Gates did. A vision that makes every employee that works with you feel an inch taller when at work. Lead by example in passion, hard work, and values. Ensure that every employee that works with you has an opportunity to catch a part of that wonderful rainbow that you are painting, and share and give credit for the success of the organization with every one of the employees. Finally, if you want people to be passionate around you, praise them in public, but if you have to criticize, criticize in private. Thank you very much.
It's time for a short break, but when we come back, Sandeep Gurumurthy in conversation with Narayana Murthy. Don't go anywhere, we're going to be right back.
I have seen that later on in their life, they will, if they didn't succeed in the studies, they will keep on saying, I told you, you prevented me from becoming a guitarist, and that's the reason why I didn't take much interest in studies. Passion is all about extreme form of energy, enthusiasm, hard work, commitment, daring, and sacrifice. Nothing worthwhile will ever be achieved unless you are very passionate about it.
Yeah, firstly, identified. Everyone has a passion. Many people don't know it. So firstly, identify it. And then when you make your plan for your entire life, in terms of, like I said, you want to plan for your kids' education, you want to plan to buy a house, you want to start a new business, make a conscious attempt to fit in your passion somewhere in it. It may mean deprioritizing something else, but a lot of people don't do that.
Welcome back to the HSBC Premier Personal Economy Summit, Your Wealth and Beyond Season 2, in partnership with ET Now. The executive editor of ET Now, Sandeep Gurumurthy, gets in a candid conversation with Narayana Murthy.
You've said in the past that passion, vision, and hard work are three things central to success. So I want you to dwell on the aspect of passion. How did you find your passion in the formative years of Infosys? How did you find your passion? Did you take a few missteps before you figured this out? How did it happen?
I did take a misstep, but more importantly, my passion came because of the hitchhiking that I did from Paris, where I used to work for several years. And while coming back to Bangalore, India, I had studied the left, the right, and the center. And I had met philosophers and politicians from all these philosophies, ideas. And then when I was incarcerated in a small 8-foot by 8-foot room without food or water for about 140 hours, and when the Bulgarian police released me, saying that I was from a friendly country called India, and therefore they were letting me go for no fault of mine. I had 21 hours journey from there to Istanbul, Turkey, and that's when I introspected and said, I'll go back to India and create an experiment to create wealth and jobs through entrepreneurship, and that's how I became an entrepreneur.
Since we are talking about passion, I think there is one downside to passion, and I want you to comment on this, because one downside is that the more you lose yourself to something, whatever you're pursuing, the more you lose yourself to it, you tend to become less rational. I know you, for one, have always taken decision driven by data and facts. So how do you reconcile the two? On one hand, you want to be passionate, lose yourself to an objective, and the other hand, you still want to be rational and be driven by data and facts.
In some way, you're right, but the bigger danger that I have seen in everybody who is passionate is they forget about their family, they forget about their children, they forget about their dear ones. Mahatma Gandhi did the same thing. So I think that is the danger. In some way, I'm guilty of that myself. So when you are focusing so much on one objective with all the energy that you have, you really do not have that level of enthusiasm and that level of energy to look after what most normal people do. So that is one of the negatives of being very passionate about anything that you do.
But let me just open the floor for a few questions, and then I can see a lot of hands being raised.
So good evening. So my question is, if and when your passion is under attack by insecure ecosystem, negative people, and political machinations, which happens very often, what would your advice be? Is it to draw from your inner spiritual strength? Essentially, how do you come out of a situation when your passion is under attack?
When you assemble a set of bright people, each of whom has his or her own independent ideas, it's not necessary that there is congruence in these ideas all the time. But the solution to such things is to collect good data, to argue in an agreeable manner, and to convince the others by the power of your ideas, by the strength of your ideas, and by the power of your data.
When our son wants to pursue guitar as a career, how do you sort of advise him when you're worried about an economic success of music, actually?
That's a brilliant question, isn't it? How do you advise him?
I think you have to provide time for him or her to pursue guitar, maybe an hour a day or whatever it is. And pretty soon, he or she themselves will come to the conclusion whether they're going to make it or not. If they're going to make it, that's fine. Why not? But if they're not going to make it, then they themselves will start making it their second or third priority. I have seen that later on in their life, they will, if they didn't succeed in the studies, they will keep on saying, I told you, you prevented me from becoming a guitarist, and that's the reason why I didn't take much interest in studies.
So just curious to know, is wealth the ultimate personal wealth or wealth creation the ultimate outcome of passion? And, how does one really keep at passion, once you've crossed the billions or the millions? Measuring it from that perspective, how do you really, persevere once you've clocked those financial milestones at least?
I think that is in some way related to internal and external factors. For example, in the IT industry itself, some companies go to reach $100 billion. Some companies have started softening their growth at $500 million. Some companies started around $10 billion. Some companies started around $6 billion. Why do you think this is happening? Because the passion amongst the leaders, that input is coming down. There is no doubt about it. Only way you can compensate for the externalities is through more passion, more energy, more commitment, etc.
Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation, for taking all those questions from this wonderful audience here, and for being a part of this event. Thank you so much.
So with that, I'd now like to invite the Group General Manager and Chief Executive of HSBC India, Stuart Mill, for a quick tete-a-tete with the editor of Magic Bricks Now, Faye D'Souza.
The interesting portion for me when we have this entire conversation about personal economy and following your passions, for those of us who live in the city of Mumbai at least, I have bills to pay. I have an EMI that pops up for the first week of every month. Everything is getting more expensive. None of our raises were what we were expecting it to be this year. I can't afford passions. A lot of times just getting through the month and making all your payments, and then on top of that, making sure you get all of your investments and your SIPs and you're staying on top of all of that, takes up a lot of the, let's say, the juice from life. Where do we find not just the time, but more importantly, the money for what you call personal economy, Stuart?
this is another case of, you have to balance passion with reality. There's no point in trying to chase a dream or to live a passion which is about climbing Mount Everest when actually, you have to work every day. It's very difficult to achieve that. So I think there is something around being realistic about your passion as well. I think the other point is that there is an intersection between our personal economy, how we save for the future,
yes,
and the passions we have. So clearly, depending on what your passion might be, then that's probably going to dictate how you manage your personal economy.
There's so much we can do on net banking and mobile banking right now, but somehow there's still a portion, the last sort of mile connectivity that still needs a wet signature or needs something to come by post or needs for a trip to be made to the local branch office, but sort of stops us from taking it all the way. Yeah. How far have we gotten right now from just taking over that last step of whether it's KYC, whether it's the signature or the trip to the bank or the post 15 days,
So it's a good question. I mean, there are things the banks can do within existing regulations. And so, we, along with many other banks, are working on, for example, being able to upload your KYC documents through the website in a secure way. So that will be launching that in the near future. There are some things that require regulatory support and change in terms of digital signatures and ability ability to accept digital copies as opposed to an actual copy with the original coming into the bank and having to be photocopied. And those things, I'm sure those things will change because the Reserve Bank is also very keen to see efficiency emerge, particularly in terms of the know your customer requirements, which I'm sure all of you would have experienced that with HSBC or another bank. And it's not the easiest thing to do. The good thing about, in the case of India, the Reserve Bank is sponsoring a common KYC agency, which will allow us as customers to put our KYC into that agency, and then it could be shared with all banks. So if you've got 3 bank accounts...
If you're doing it with the credit reports, there's no reason why we can't do it with
Yes, exactly.
KYC.
So that's the concept.
I have a question. We always talk about too many regulatories in Indian banking system and all. Which is one major reform you will expect this particular government to take care in case of our banking industry? One major reform from this particular government in banking.
Well, the one major reform that has just come through, which is very important, is the Solvency and Bankruptcy Code. That's now received presidential assent at the end of last month. This has potential to be transformative in terms of the real challenge of getting resolution on the non-performing loan problem, particularly in the state bank sector, which as you probably know, accounts for more than 70% of the banking assets in India. So the passage of that act, which is a very, very good act, is critical. We now need to see the enabling institutions put in place. The intention is that that will take between now and the end of the year, so that by the beginning of next year, banks will actually be able to start using the bankruptcy code to resolve some of these problematic lending situations that the banks have.
So thank you so much for your
time. Thank you very much
indeed.
It's been a very
interesting conversation. Thank you.
That's a wrap on this episode of the HSBC Premier Personal Economy Summit, Your Wealth and Beyond Season 2 in partnership with ET Now. In the next episode, catch award-winning filmmaker Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra and tennis champion Mahesh Bhupati share their success stories with us. Goodbye for now. See you next week.
Bhag Milkha Bhag came from my swimming days because National Stadium, Milkha Singh used to practice there before us, but he was legendary, and every time my coach would slap me and say, you know what Milkha Singh would do? You ask him to do 1 lap, he would do 100 laps. And I said, who the hell is this Milkha Singh here?
In tennis, you always have to have a plan A, B and C, because if you don't have a plan B and the opponent is beating you, then you're in big trouble, because there's nobody who's able to shout out or tell you during the match what you're doing wrong.